Barring a literal miracle coming in at the absolute last second to save us all, it seems Donald Trump has won the US election. Not only has Donald Trump won the US presidency, in fact, he won it not only with the Electoral College like he did in 2016, but he won it with the popular vote, an unprecedented, massive win. Kamala Harris behind several million votes nationally with Trump, putting Trump at a very comfortable win. If he wins the remaining states, it might even be considered a landslide victory or bordering on a landslide victory. He'll definitely claim it, and you'd have a hard time arguing it. He genuinely took the trophy here. And not just that. Donald Trump didn't just win this, but across the board, Republicans won harder in this election than they have won in decades. Not only winning the popular vote for the first time in a very long time, like many elections, but on top of that, they may end up winning the House, because it is razor thin right now. They've already flipped multiple seats that were previously blue to red. They've already won the Senate, so we have a red Senate majority. They have the Supreme Court, so right now, at least 2/3 of our government, besides Trump and the executive branch, will be Republican MAGA controlled. And if the results continue to come in bad for the House, we could see all sectors of our government, besides Congress, majority Republican. Although I think Congress right now might be majority red. I haven't really paid attention to it, so I need to check in on that. It's not a good look. This election seems fishy. I don't think it's fair to call foul. Don't do what Trump did. Don't look at these numbers and say, Harris at 67 million and Trump at 72 million, losing this hard? That couldn't be possible. Something seems fishy here. That's what Trump did in 2020. Don't deny the outcome of the election. Denying the outcome of the election is massive copium. That's the real copium. Instead, what you need to do is you need to look at these results, and we need to look at what it tells us. We're going to look at the results of the last two elections as well to compare them to these results. We're going to look at the demographics that voted for Harris and Trump and who didn't vote, and what groups the Dems failed to win over, and what policies Trump ran on that won him the election, and what policies Harris ran on, or what things Harris and Biden did that lost them the election. So, well guys, let's get into it. I'm sorry about the news, but like I said, even if Trump wins, it's immediately back on the saddle talking about what we need to do next. Now, just to immediately get into it, if you're wondering, Zan, what can I do? What do we need to do about this situation? What you need to immediately do is get involved in local politics. You've got a midterm coming up in 2 years. All right? It's not that far away. You could flip your state on a local level. Get involved in electoral politics. You can run for office. A lot of those races are decided on a margin of tens of votes. Count them on one hand how many votes the margin is. You can absolutely easily run and even win in some local elections, especially if you've got a small town that you live in, or a small area, small district, something like that. You could run for Congress. You could legitimately, realistically run for Congress and win, guys. I'm not joking. That is completely doable. And you don't, like, Congress elections happen far more frequently than like even midterms and federal elections. Get involved in your local state's politics. Register to vote. Lock the fuck in. Oh, has Harris started her concession speech? What good timing. Is it happening now? It is happening. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, the relevance. The perfect timing. What can I do? We gotta watch the concession speech. Oh, man. Kamala didn't get the job done. Should her statement really matter to nonpartisans? The perception that she is willing to concede the election, this is her concession speech, and that she is engaging in a peaceful transfer of power, and as the vice president will certify the results of the election, and thus be the one who officializes Trump's presidency. Yes, that's actually a very big deal. That through all of this, when Trump lost the election, he tried to overturn the results and cheat our democracy, while Harris is actually the main person responsible for passing the power over to Trump as vice president. Remember, the reason why Trump didn't run with Pence like he did in 2016 and replaced him is because he refused as vice president to not certify the election results in 2020. Why is she smiling? Because unlike a lot of you whiners in chat, she recognizes she needs to be a pillar of strength and uplifting power and not whine, because there are millions and tens of millions of people who are currently looking to her for hope for this country, and she has a responsibility not to let her own personal emotions over the situation override that responsibility. Because she's a good leader. That's why.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can hear it in her voice. She is sad.
So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of...
Translation. You dumb motherfuckers. You stupid motherfuckers. Really? We lost the popular vote? How many of you didn't go out to vote? Women out there, how many of you went on Facebook and talked about how you're Team Kamala, and then didn't go and vote? That's the translation for you.
Resolve.
This is actually the max volume, but I can use a separate volume booster app. There we go, and that should boost the volume beyond the normal limit.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for.
Third-party votes made no significant difference in this election's outcome. It would have had a little bit of a tightening effect on the loss that Harris had in the popular vote, but it would have made no difference in the swing states.
Not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
Oh no, she's calling for insurrection, guys. Peacefully and imagine if she said peacefully and patriotically go march to the Capitol. Dude, fucking imagine.
My beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers.
Hey, Hermit's account, stop shitting on the Second Amendment. How about that? Second Amendment's based.
Who gave so much of themselves. To the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional.
170 days of this campaign. Did you guys see it? Okay, this has been the one silver lining. This will make you feel a little better. To scare Republicans, lefties on Twitter last night started posting me bringing my 50 Harris ballots to ballot boxes in Pennsylvania. Hashtag start the steal. And they got hashtag start the steal trending on Twitter to scare Republicans into thinking they were going to lose their lead and the states were going to flip. That shit was really funny. I saw that shit after I ended stream last night, and Republicans were getting genuinely mad at those tweets. The hashtag start the steal tweets.
About building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of...
All right, I'm going to be honest. I'm bored with it now. She's repeating a lot of the same rhetoric that we've seen her repeat a lot of times during her campaign. There's not much to it now. She's mostly said all that we're there to see. I want to talk primarily about why she lost, okay? There's not going to be a recount. It'll make no difference. The margin of Trump's win is so massive, a recount would make no difference. You wouldn't even be able to argue for the validity of a recount. So, let's look at the results. Now, obviously, in some states, they could pull a recount and it might bend things a little. Wisconsin, for example, has been called for Trump, and there's literally a 1.1% margin there. Michigan, the margin is pretty similar, about a 1% margin. In Pennsylvania, it's a 1% margin flat. In Georgia, it's a 2% margin flat. Our vote's going to come in. That could potentially change the results. Could there be days of electoral ballots getting checked? Maybe, dude, but I don't think so, dog. I don't think so. It would be the biggest upset in political history. It would give Trump so much grounds to argue fraud if days after the results were basically finalized by the media, we saw a flip because more votes got counted. They try to cast it, cancel out the votes. I don't know. It's going to be Trump's win. It's Trump's win for sure. But I really want to analyze these results, okay? Let's take a look. Now, something you guys have to remember is that not all the votes have been counted yet. And I don't say this to mean that, the results could change. I mean that to say the final totals of how much Kamala Harris lost by and how much Trump won by have not been finalized yet. There's a chance that there's an extra couple 100,000 votes to come in for Trump, maybe an extra million to come in for Harris. Might be a little bit tighter of a margin. Who knows? The numbers might get a little higher is my point, because there was supposed to be much higher turnout than we're seeing here, except for the Republicans. The Republicans had record turnout. The Dems seem to have had pretty low turnout based on these results here. So that would be surprising if there weren't, some more votes to be cast or counted for Harris. There's probably some more, but it's not going to make a big difference. So with that said, the final count is at roughly 67 million to 72 million. Trump won by several million votes. And if you look at the totals from 2020, you'll see Biden won by 81 million votes, Trump by 74 million votes last time. So Trump actually did lose some level of support. Now, granted, 2 million votes is completely possible to be gained over time as more ballots get counted on Trump's end across all states. Absolutely. Tons of ballots in California, Oregon, and Washington haven't even been counted yet. So a lot of Dem and Republican votes are going to be added just from the massive populations in those states to the totals. Regardless, though, man, the Dems lost some serious support. 81 million votes for Biden to 67 million in 2024. The Republicans have actually used this to argue this time the Dems couldn't steal the election. Those 13, 14 million dead people who voted for Biden, as they say, they finally stayed in the grave, has been the running line from MAGA. Because, yeah, where are those 10 million votes that won Biden the election? Were they people who just came out in droves to vote against Trump in 2020 but never again? Or there is no evidence anything fishy happened in 2020, but it's like, damn, that does look fucking weird, doesn't it, guys? So Dems lost 14 million votes by that estimate, roughly, yeah. And obviously the numbers are still going to be adjusted over time as more ballots get counted, but that's right now what things look to be. A massive departure from performance in 2020, 4 years ago, showing a massive shift to the right, or at least a massive drop in participation among Dem voters in terms of the popular vote. And I get that, like, the popular vote does not determine the election or anything, but it can be a big part in like, determining the outcome. It typically, there tends to be a trend, not always, but there tends to be. And the popular vote tells us where the American people are, at least the voting American people are, in terms of politics. And man, these results don't look great. If we look at 2016, by the way, you'll see Hillary got 65 million votes. Harris was able to just barely pull over what Hillary got in 2016 after all total ballots were counted. Now, something you'll remember is in 2016, Trump also lost the popular vote. Trump only got 62 million votes in 2016, and Hillary got 65 million. Hillary won by about 3 million votes. This time around, Kamala Harris lost. Oh, and in 2020, obviously, Trump lost the popular vote by, like, several million, like 6-7 million, damn. In this case, Harris lost by about that much. So the entire election flipped. Pretty insane outcome here. The American people have moved further right. Not only that, but notice in 2016, Trump got 62 million votes. In this election, in 12 hours after poll closing, Trump is at 72 million. At least 10 million more Americans decided, yeah, this guy who tried to overturn the results of the last election, this fascist who calls, like, different, like, minorities garbage and it just does everything in his power to be awful, this is who we want. This is who represents us. You need to understand that Trump is probably the most perfect representation of American culture I've ever seen. Like, if you came to America as, say, a European or any non-American, you will find that most Americans you encounter in public act, talk, dress, behave, and think like Trump. They talk like Trump. Trump is an American. Trump is the American. You can say Tim Walz is John America. Tim Walz is everything America wants the rest of the world to think it is. Trump is what America is. Trump is the embodiment of American culture. Trump has to really fuck up if Americans are going to dislike him. And this is the wake-up call that I think the left really needed to realize America is a right-wing country. A very conservative country where we as the left are a minority, both in power holding and in total population number, unless this is just a low turnout issue. That is what this election suggests. Is it black pill time? If you want to take the black pill on the American people, yes, you should probably have taken the black pill on Americans a long time ago. I've been telling you for a long time, Americans are stupid, and if Trump wins, it'll be on, well, the exact policies that we're going to break down in a moment, and how the American people and their stupidity have been convinced that Trump is better. So let's break those policies down, huh? Let's talk about how Trump actually ended up winning this election by bringing up paint to kind of illustrate these reasons. So I want to break down the possible reasons why this happened into 3 categories. There are the fun reasons that Harris lost. And what I mean by fun is they're the reasons that a lot of you guys in chat are going to be posting as, like, cathartic venting. But realistically, probably aren't all that real. Probably aren't why, but maybe some of them are. There are the boring reasons Harris lost that are just like the very, like, okay, here are, like, demographic breakdowns, voter data. Here's where Harris lost with certain demographics, et cetera, et cetera. Economic policy, that kind of stuff. And in the middle, probably why she lost, which is the main, like, 5 issues I think I'm going to break it down to that are why Harris lost this election. So let's start with fun reasons Harris lost. The reasons that many of you in chat have probably, like, purported as why she lost, right? She didn't appeal to young lefties. Another thing people say is she was too easy on Israel. What else, chat? Does anyone else have like a popular fun reason Kamala lost? Quote unquote. I don't know. Her campaign was bad. Oh. Her campaign was bad. Bad on trans issues? Bad on trans issues. Move the chat. Alright. Oh, by the way, if you're noticing my audio has been a little weird lately, where do I move it to? I guess I can move it up to here for now. If you notice my audio has been a little weird as of late, don't worry, that is temporary. I found out today my YouTube just randomly, for no reason, set my audio bitrate to 0 instead of the ideal 128. I'm going to change that after stream today, and my audio is going to be a lot more smooth, bassy, high quality. So if you're hearing my mic and it's like, why is it so, like, weird? It's because YouTube just is really weird and has been doing odd stuff lately. In the last few streams, they just automatically set my audio bitrate on my stream to 0 instead of 128. Let's see. Oh, identity. Black woman. Obviously, a lot of people think, oh, she lost because she's a black woman. Bad on gun rights. All right. And then, yeah, I think that's probably a good breakdown of, like, the fun reasons that Harris lost, that you'll hear a lot of people say. She didn't appeal to young lefties. She was too easy on Israel. Her campaign was bad. She was bad on trans issues. She was a black woman, and people are racist and sexist. And she was bad on gun rights. I'm sure there's a bunch of other reasons, but these are the ones that come to mind. These are the ones I've seen a lot on Twitter, okay? Here are the boring reasons why Harris probably lost. Inflation rate during Biden and Trump's presidency. Media coverage of Dem admin was lax on getting achievements. I can't fucking spell. Achievements out there. What else? Trying to... Oh, yeah. Harris didn't have enough time to campaign. And another... this is a big reason. This was probably an impossible election for Dems to win. So, these are the boring reasons and fun reasons why Harris probably lost, and I'm going to pick... we're going to go over all these popular reasons that I've seen passed around as why Harris probably lost. As far as, like, the issues go. Then we're going to talk about the actual demographics of votes that Harris lost and Trump won, because that is also very relevant. And then we're going to talk about, obviously, what we can do now. But first, let's talk about the reason she probably lost. She didn't appeal to young lefties is just not true. I've seen this claim passed around a lot. It's just not true. Gen Z, young voter turnout for the Dems was massive, like record turnout among Gen Z. The Harris administration actually did an unprecedented level of success in appealing to young voters and getting them to come out and cast their ballot and vote for Harris. They really did succeed. Their voter bloc, the Harris voter bloc this election, was young, very progressive people. The people she lost with were, in fact, older, Gen X and older specifically, conservative, especially white voters. That is the demographic that Harris lost pretty goddamn hard on. The demographic that Biden won previously, that Harris needed to also win if she was going to get this election. Another claim is she was too easy on Israel. Well, going over that last point, the fact that young Gen Z are the ones who backed Harris the most and actually came out and voted in very high voter turnout, that actually doesn't seem to be true. The young people, Trump also had a lot of Latino voting. We'll get to that in a moment. Don't worry, KP Thone. So based on the previous data point, I feel the idea that Trump was too easy, or not Trump, or she was too easy on Israel is the opposite of reality. I am not in favor of Israel's military action that has caused so much civilian death and it basically is just genocide in Gaza on the Palestinians. But the American people are very Zionist. America is a hardcore Zionist country. I've made this point before about how it is nearly impossible to exist as a political candidate, as a politician in America, and be openly even critical of Israel and have a existing political career. And people pafawed me because of how many people are out there waving Palestine flags. But here we are with a massive Trump win, mogging even his previous wins, gaining over 10 million votes. It's not that there wasn't enough support for Harris because she was lacking in support. It's also that Trump has grown in power and bled voters more likely than not from Harris and from Biden. Trump convinced people who have voted Dem to vote for him again in 2020. So I highly doubt that she was too easy on Israel. Her campaign was bad. In a way, I kind of agree with this. She did a really good job of appealing to the young demographic, and I think every single campaign in the future should learn from what she did in increasing Gen Z voter turnout as much as she did. However, what she really failed at was appealing to Gen X and older voters whose biggest concerns by far were not abortion or any of the issues that Harris primarily ran on and made the forefront of her campaign. Certainly not that Trump is bad. Instead, their primary focus is economics and immigration. And the majority of voters in America have been polled and surveyed for weeks and months now as massively favoring Trump on economics and immigration. And I even said if Trump wins, it'll be on those policies, economics and immigration. And he did, in fact, win. In every metric, the Republicans won. The American people absolutely agree with, say, for example, remember when I brought up the statistic that 60 or 70-something% of Americans believe that the U.S. needs to do mass deportations of illegal immigrants? Y'all were like, no way, that's impossible. Do you feel like that's impossible, seeing the outcome of this election now? Or do you think maybe that stat was correct? Do you think maybe, yeah, about 70-something% of Americans are open to the idea of mass deportations of illegal immigrants? Because that is the culture and standard of the issue. That is the expected belief to be had on the issue. Americans at large do not want illegal immigrants here. Many of them who don't want illegal immigrants here are even okay with making the legal immigration system easier, but they are not okay with illegal immigration. Illegal immigrants are one of the biggest hated groups by Americans, even if you are the, what's the term for it? Dreamer child of illegal immigrants. Statistically, you're more likely to vote for Trump than for Kamala if you're a man. If you're like a Latino, yeah. Anyway, I think in a lot of ways her campaign was bad because it didn't reach out to the people that are older and who had the economy and immigration as their top priorities. I think that the Republicans got a massive W by preventing that massive immigration that border security funding bill from passing. If the Dems had succeeded in passing that bipartisan border funding bill, Harris might have gained a lot of support because Americans really, really hate illegal immigration. And that would have been a big win for her to claim that she's taken a big step to eliminate illegal immigration, which would make you all cringe if she stated it. It's why, y'all kept getting mad every time she said something bordering on conservative, but those were the winning talking points she had. Another claim is she's bad on trans issues. I assure you, people did not refuse to turn out to vote for Harris and let Trump win with his Project 2025 because Harris doesn't do enough for trans people. No. The fact that she is a black woman, I honestly don't think this is what did it. I'm going to put an X through this reason as well. I don't think America is too racist to elect a black woman, or I should say a mixed race woman, president. I think that, America nearly landslide elected Obama. I mean, Obama won Iowa, didn't he? Iowa's like a hard red state, and Obama won Iowa in 2008, if I remember. Maybe it was 2012, I forget. But Obama won Iowa, dude. That's fucking insane. Obama was able to win over rural Republican states into going blue as a black man, okay? I don't think the racism is that big of a factor in the outcome of the election. Not to mention, Hillary won the popular vote by several million votes over Trump in 2016. So I don't think sexism is a big factor either. Maybe when you combine woman and brown together, you get maybe like even the kind of racist and kind of sexist people, they just can't handle that. That's like you can't be both, but I doubt it. Considering the history of what people have voted for in the past, I doubt it. Bad on gun rights. Maybe. Guns were really not much of a wedge issue in this election, but I'll put it on the list simply because this has always been a pretty losing issue for Dems when it is in the forefront. Unless there has been like a school shooting yesterday, the American people are broadly not in favor of like strict gun control, particularly when you explain in depth what kind of gun control you want to put in place. If you do a poll on should there be better, stricter gun control in this country, most Americans, I believe, actually vote yes. They say yes. But if you ask even further, and you start specifying Dem policies on gun control, would you like these to be passed? They vote no overwhelmingly. And so, while in general, Americans are in favor of the idea of gun control, they're not in favor of the idea of, say, an assault weapons ban, for instance. God, these tariffs are going to be so fucking stupid. Shit's about to get expensive, guys. Now let's get into the boring reasons Harris lost, and let's be honest, most of the reasons as to why we, like, as a foreigner, your gun fetish is pure cringe. It is not, Iri Valachi. As a country that has had more guns than people for hundreds of years, the fact that anyone could get a gun to do harm upon you if they wanted to, and it happens all the fucking time. I literally heard, by the way, I found out what it was. There was a drive-by shooting like 4 or 5 blocks away or something like that in Seattle last night. It was a drive-by shooting. 3 people were shot. 1 person in the ankle, 1 in the chest and clavicle, and a woman was shot in the leg. And it was a burst of fire while going down the street, just random shooting. Just firing with something full auto. I heard it. It was so loud, and it was probably like 10 or 12 blocks away from me, but it was like 4 straight blocks this guy drove firing off shots. That you can look up the story right now. It's like today's news, Seattle shooting. Look it up and go to news tab on Google. So that happened last night, and yeah, man, like when that is an issue in your country, the people don't want to say, oh, I'm going to give up my guns and that'll solve the problem. The people typically say, oh, I need to get a gun, so if a crazy with a gun comes after me, I can equalize the situation and protect myself. You can believe it's cringe, but I'm simply explaining why we have that culture. It's not entirely a fetishization. It's that for hundreds of years there have been more guns than people. You can't take that cat out of the bag so fast, and Americans aren't just going to give up their ability to protect themselves from gun-wielding maniacs. Well, for the next decades, we're working on trying to get the guns off the street so the maniacs can't get them. It's a really hard sell to get Americans to give up their ability to defend themselves. Equalize the situation? Yeah, man, right? The guns are literally referred to as the Great Equalizer. That is literally the famous, like, unanimous term people refer to them by, because even if you're a 110-pound soaking wet, like, woman, you can carry a gun and be safe. That is why strippers carry snub-nosed revolvers in their purses and keep their hands on them as they walk to their cars from work, because dudes will harass them and try to kidnap, rape them, sexually assault them. And so if you've ever known a sex worker, especially one that's done stripping, they carried a gun because it's the Great Equalizer. They, as a small little lady, can defend themselves from like a 300-pound trucker who wants to kidnap and rape them. So yeah, Great Equalizer, that's the term. God, I can't believe y'all are getting me. See? Lefties are unwilling to even, like, compromise to try and get a victory. Sorry, guys, but if you're a non-American, you got to accept that America's never getting a Dem presidency again if they push hard against guns. We have a culture here. Respect it. It's not changing. Our culture isn't going to change, okay? Sorry. Mulled and cope and seethe over it, all right? Anyway, boring reasons that Harris lost. This is possibly the biggest reason that Harris lost, period. Inflation rate during Biden and Trump's presidency. During Biden's presidency, the inflation rate was at an average of roughly 12%. Might be off by a few point percentages there, but about 12% was the average inflation rate of Biden's presidency. I'm going to get into the reasons for that in a moment. During Trump's presidency, the average inflation rate was about 2%, which is basically exactly what the Federal Reserve likes to keep the inflation rate at. A 2% inflation rate is about the healthiest that you can have. Like that's what you want. That is what the Federal Reserve aims for. A little lower is good, but a little bit of inflation is actually kind of okay for the economy. And so the Federal Reserve aims for about 2%, which is what was maintained during Trump's presidency. Because of this, prices were very low, interest rates were very low, everything was very pog, we were all having a great time. Everybody, like during Trump's presidency, you have to admit, besides a few issues, there wasn't a shitload of economic problems. And this was nothing to do with Trump. I would love to have any conversation with a Trump supporter who thinks they could explain to me what economic policy Trump passed that led to that sustained 2% inflation rate. I would love to find out what Trump did to do that, because I know what the president can do to affect an inflation rate in a country, and it's nowhere near as significant as Trump tries to take credit for. So I'd love to hear a Trump supporter tell me what Trump did to do that. But I can tell you why Biden had such a high inflation rate. The inflation rate was so high under Biden primarily because of two reasons: COVID and the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine being the second, if I'm not mistaken, biggest exporter of grain and one of the biggest exporters of oil in the world, meant that two of the world's biggest commodities outputters of the world's biggest commodities had been absolutely crippled by Russia's invasion. This shook the entire world's economy. UK, from Britain to France to America to Canada, inflation was skyrocketing and the economy was fucked. Prices were up everywhere in every country after the invasion of Ukraine, particularly with COVID as well, due to the amount of unemployment and everything, which, funnily enough, happened under Trump. But to be very clear, unemployment does not matter. Underemployment does not matter. Job security does not matter. These statistics do not matter, dude. They literally do not matter to the American people. What matters is the inflation. If inflation is low, then Americans feel good about the economy. And if they feel good about the economy, they won't look deep into it. They just attribute a good economy to the sitting presidential administration. And so Biden, due to COVID, and hell, COVID wrecked things, trust me. Biden, unfortunately, took the hit on a 12% inflation rate caused by, in some ways, Trump's behavior. You could argue that Trump empowered Putin to invade Ukraine when he did. You could argue that Trump caused the massive ravaging of the world that COVID did. The 1.6 million dead Americans today that died from COVID. You could make that case. However, during Trump's presidency, what people remember is, hell, even during the bout of Trump's presidency when COVID was happening, what people remember is that no one was driving, so gas prices dropped to an unbelievably low amount, with gas trading between countries sometimes happening at a negative, unprecedented for trade in the world of world trade. People were just gathering gas in gallon jugs because it had gotten so cheap. And so when you see when Americans remember Trump as president and gas prices that low, I've told you this a million times, repeat after me, the American people would elect Hitler in a landslide if they knew it meant lower gas prices. $1 or $2 would be all it took. Financial security is far and away the most important issue in this and the past elections. And it is what Trump runs on as a businessman to get people convinced that he is a good president. Media coverage of Dem administration was lax on getting achievements out there. I actually think this is partially a factor, but I honestly don't think it was what did it. With such a massive difference, in votes, I don't think the media coverage having been harsher on Trump or more favorable to Biden and actually giving Biden attention for his achievements would have made a difference. And I think a lot of that is because Harris was the one running who just didn't have enough time to campaign. You cannot argue this was not a massive factor. Not only did Harris not have enough time to campaign, but the way that she became the nominee may have lost a fair few amount of voters. Perhaps even a game-changing amount of voters in some scenarios. You got to remember, Biden won the primary, the majority of Dem voters wanted Biden. He was more popular than Harris, okay? He just was. When votes get cast, he was more popular than Harris. That is what the past objectively shows us. And the current present that we're in objectively shows us. When Biden ran against Trump, he won and beat him comfortably when all the votes were done and counted. Not super comfortably, but surprisingly comfortably, considering how scary election night was up until a certain point when things started to flip around. Harris getting flipped out, or Biden getting flipped out for Harris, was probably a terrible idea and should never, ever be repeated. Something like that should never happen again. The Dems made a huge mistake there. Frankly, because what would have happened had they not done that? Biden would have lost harder than Harris did. There would have been no difference in worst case scenario if Biden had been kept in, except based on history of both primary voters among Dems preferring Biden over Kamala Harris, because Biden won the primary, and the fact that Biden has beat Trump in the past, Biden probably had a better chance than Kamala did all along, just like I claimed 4 months ago, and got massive amounts of shit for. I'm fine with disagreement on this point, but that is just my opinion. I don't think it was a good idea to swap him out. Giving Harris only 100 days to campaign was genuinely insane. On top of that, I honestly think this is a pretty valid point, this final one, that this was probably an impossible election for Dems to win. There is a good chance that because of the turmoil that happened at the end of 2020, that the American people just wanted a bit of change, and that Trump didn't lose because the American people were so disgusted by him. He lost simply because people wanted to try out something new to see if things get better. And because it takes a long time for things to get better, more than 4 years, Biden did not get credit for making things better. And so now the American people, the undecided voter at the polls, decided, you know what? Let's switch things up again and see if things start to improve. Trump there was those low gas prices, low inflation, and I guarantee you, if there are like studies done on this election to find out what issue won Trump the election, I would bet my bottom dollar it will be the economy. I think the economy won him the election. Now I want to look at the voter demographic numbers. Now that we've gone over let's first summarize, I guess, the primary reasons I think Harris lost. Her campaign not necessarily was bad, but did not focus enough on older voters, more conservative or centrist voters. She's not great on gun rights. So that's probably a low issue. Guns were not a high polling issue in this election. Inflation rate during Biden and Trump's presidency, big factor, possibly the factor. Harris didn't have enough time to campaign, possibly one of the next biggest factors. And I think it's very possible this was just an impossible election for Dems to win. That, Biden only won over Trump in 2020 because people wanted to switch things up, and that after 4 years of 12% inflation and high prices for things, no Dem could have won. Not Biden, not Harris, not Walz, not even Obama could have won after 4 years of 12% inflation. Now let's take a look at the demographic breakdowns of the votes and see who failed us. Who failed us this election? 2024 election voter demographic breakdowns. How voter demographics changed between 2020 and the 2024 presidential election. In the 2020 presidential election, 48% of men voted for Biden. Voter turnout was 48% men and 52% women. And Biden got 45% of men's votes, while Trump got 53% of men's votes. Because remember, Trump is only growing his support among men in America. Women got 57% of Biden's support, or vote, and supported Biden at 57% and Trump at 42%. Pretty much what you would expect, to be honest. Trump being known as a rapist and stuff. Now, men supported Harris at 44% while making up 47% of the vote. Not a very big difference. Men at least compared to 2020, didn't necessarily drop support all that much, just 1% for Harris. However, their support for Trump went up to 54%, and women's support for Trump went up 2%. Women's support for Harris dropped several percent from 57% to 54% for Harris. And Trump gained support among women at a 2% amount among women. Trump gained support among women. Biden had more female supporters than Trump has. Biden had more females, and Trump has more female supporters than Kamala Harris has. Women chose Trump. Of course, men are the ones who really chose him, but this time around, women changed their minds, and more of them chose Trump. Oh, can you show the data on screen? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why didn't I do that? Here you guys go. 2020, men 45% Biden, 53% Trump. Women 57% Biden, 42% Trump. 2024, men 44% Harris and 54% Trump, while women were at 54% Harris and 44% Trump. You'll notice, by the way, Trump gained more female supporters than Harris lost male supporters. Trump bled female votes from Biden, or from Harris, that Biden got more than Harris lost male votes to Trump. That is wild. Now, if we break it down by race, in 2020, white people supported, about 41% of white people supported Biden, 58% of white people supported Trump. That's what you expect. He's the candidate for the whites. About 87% of black people supported Biden in 2020, while 12% voted Trump. Hispanic and Latino, 65% for Biden in 2020, 32% for Trump. Asian, 61% for Biden, 34% for Trump. Slightly higher support for Trump. And other groups, in general, make up 55% for Biden, 41% for Trump. What a staggering change in 2024. Harris gained support among white people, it seems. She actually gained support among white people, while Trump lost support among white people. And surprisingly, Harris lost a percentage point with black people. Biden was more popular with black people, which was actually easy to predict. Let's be real. For some reason, black people love Biden. I don't know what record he had that made black people love him so much. I don't know if it was I don't know. I don't know why, but holy shit. Harris, a black woman, got less support than an old white guy among black voters. Think about that for a minute. That is how popular Biden was among black Americans. Biden flipped Georgia blue simply because black people supported him so much specifically. I'm telling you guys, that flipping of Biden, switching out Biden for Kamala may not have been that good of an idea. We might have wanted to have just stuck with Biden, even with his brain melting or whatever. Hispanic and Latino. Now, this is an amazing statistic, one that we really need to look at. The far right shift of Hispanic and Latino Americans. The fact that Trump has targeted Hispanic and Latino Americans as his main boogeyman to demonize and make people be afraid of. And despite that, 65% of Latinos supported Biden in 2020 compared to 53% for Harris in 2024. Trump jumping up among Latino voters from 32% to 45%. Texas Latinos are seeing the biggest shifts in particular. Yeah, my friend Ethan, who used to be a Texan, told me before the election, man, when I hang out in Houston, I'm seeing young teens and they're all Latino, all out wearing their MAGA gear and stuff. It's fucking scary, dude. I'm telling you, dude, Latinos love Trump, Zan. And he's telling me this. I'm like, no way. He was right, dude. What he was witnessing in Texas and Houston were just Latinos always wearing their Trump merch. Trump is quickly becoming the Latino voter base's quirked up white boy who hates them, but they love him. I don't know why. We need to study this. This demographic shift to the right and in favor of Trump, as Trump attacks that demographic, needs to be studied. It happened with women. It happened with Hispanic and Latino voters. Holy shit. Harris, of course, lost significant support compared to Biden among Asian voters, and Trump gained about a significant amount with Asian voters as well. Harris also lost support among other demographics quite significantly, from 55% Biden to 43% Harris, and jumping up to from 41% to 53% for Trump. White people basically stayed consistent this election. White Democrats voted for the Democrat again. White Republicans voted for the Republican again. There wasn't that much change. Nothing surprising. But non-white Americans are shifting right fast. I don't know what to tell you guys. Non-white Americans are quickly becoming antithetical to everything that is good for them. We'll have to see how they handle a 4 years of Trump completely unreined in, unleashed. No need to even worry about getting reelected, unless he abolishes term limits, I guess. But if he does that, there's no point in even running for election again. He might as well just make himself emperor. But if we have another election again, let's see how these voter demographics feel after 4 years. I'm speechless. Did you guys really think that marginalized groups, as you guys like to say, agree with the left? Like, do you guys think that, like, marginalized groups in America were, like, super leftists with their Ushankas and their, like, red flags, like, in their AK-47s, ready to, like, march for socialism and to defeat the racist establishment? No, they're ready to join it. They're people. POC are individuals like any white person who can feel a desire to want to take advantage of an exploitative, awful system to get ahead personally out of selfish desire, because they're people, their skin color, and the demographic they are a part of changes nothing about that. You have to remember, there is only so much that you can try to argue, hey, Hispanics and Latinos, Trump hates you. Let's all get together and fight as a gathered cause against... No, Latinos don't want to feel like they're being made into a monolith. They want to feel like they're being talked to as individuals, and Trump hates them as individuals, not as a group. Because otherwise, they'll just rationalize that Trump would like them specifically, that they're one of the good ones. This should be a massive, massive wake-up call to you guys. Non-white people in America are massively moving to the right. This is not an issue of Kamala Harris was too right-wing and wasn't left enough. This is an issue of Kamala Harris was so left-wing, she lost non-white voters substantially. The young white college kids, as you can see from this data, they stuck with Harris. The white guys for Harris, they stuck with Harris and they voted for Biden at about the same amount. It is non-white Americans who are shifting to the right in this country. And this is a recognition that lefties online are going to have, that there is not this like magical monolithic block of POC out there fighting for even their own rights. It's just not happening. They are individuals fighting to get ahead for themselves, to secure financial security, to lower inflation so they can afford groceries and so their kids can go to school. And they have been convinced that Biden is ruining the economy, that Harris is partially responsible, and that if they want to be able to afford rent next month, they need to vote Trump. Man. Listen, this is such a grim day, but I really hope that y'all are able to pull something from all of this. And that being the value in us having these numbers. That in 4 years, Trump has gained nearly 10% or more among non-white voters in almost every category, despite ramping up his attacks on those groups more than ever. It goes to show that the American people, no matter what their race is, we're in a new age of politics. The Democrats are going to have to really go back to the drawing board after this and basically completely overhaul the way they engage in politics in the future. The idea of people in suits that talk like a aggrieved school principal needs to end. Tim Walz, I think, might have been a good representation of the type of people we need on the left. Maybe Bernie. But frankly, I think we need a Trump. I think the left needs a Trump. I think the left needs to start embracing the rhetoric, the type of rhetoric Trump engages in. What I mean by that is not the dishonesty, not the lying, more so the boisterousness, the lack of any care for what people will react in response to what you say. Trump goes out there, says something insane, gets an immense amount of media coverage, farming the crazies that agree with it, and then does not really he just doesn't let the criticism get to him, and he just keeps doing it. And it is a winning strategy. He's so bullish, he bowls through any consequences or accountability for saying crazy shit. It turns out, in America, there is no October surprise. There's no crazy thing you can say to ruin your political career. Hell, you can't have Epstein ties or be a felon or try to overturn democracy and lose your political career. It might make you more popular because you're so, you're against the man. That's a big part of it. If there is one way I could describe American culture, it's all about sticking it to the man. American culture is fundamentally all about sticking it to the man. And Americans think no one sticks it to the man better than Donald Trump. When he tried to overturn the results because he lost, he was sticking it to the man. He's a bad boy, He's a cool bad boy type president. They like that shit. It actually resonates with our very conservative, very macho, boisterous American culture. And even non-white, even immigrant Americans coming to America are seeing an increase in support among Trump because they're like, hell yeah, I want in on this. What the left has been doing for years now is not working. Maybe it's time for the dirtbag left to come back. Now here, before I wrap this segment and this conversation, I want to talk about what you can do. I want all of you, if you did not vote, because I know that a lot of you watching right now, I recognize you. We've got 600 plus people watching right now, and let's just say ever since Biden got elected, my stream viewer count has not been this high often since then. And a lot of you are old faces that I'm recognizing now. I hope you enjoyed your 4-year vacation during Biden's presidency from political content. Welcome back. I hope we have fun for the next 4 years. I hope you voted. If you are able to vote and are American, I hope you voted if you are upset with these outcomes. You obviously wouldn't admit if you didn't vote, but I hope you did. And if you didn't, then I hope you know that you fucked up and that you are part of the problem and that you need to make yourself not part of the problem next election. Obviously, if you're underage and can't vote, I'm not referring to you. I'm saying if you could have voted and you didn't, then you're part of the problem. I can't wait to say I told you so, TBFH. To who? Anyway, one thing that you can do is I need you all to register to vote. If you have not already registered to vote, register. Do it soon. Do it early. Do it so early that you don't even have to think about it. You won't have thought about it for years by the time election day comes around. Register to vote early. Make sure it's taken care of long before next election. Be ready to vote in midterms. Be ready to vote if you live in a congressional district that is going to be up for election. Holy fucking shit, pay attention. Find out what district you live in. Find out who your congressman is or congresswoman is. And then find out when they're up for re-election. Find out when they're being challenged. And then vote blue if you've got a red motherfucker running or currently serving in Congress in your district. Oust that motherfucker. Those races are tight. Those races are fucking tight, dog. Oust that fucker from Congress. Find out what voting, look up your house on Google Maps, okay? Or look up your address and then look up what voting district you're in. Find out the name of your congressman because your district, your little, district area has a congressman or a congresswoman. Find out if they're blue or red. If they're blue, then check into their policies. See how they're doing. Are they cringe? Maybe you can oust them for a better Dem. If they're a Republican, look into who's challenging them or looking to challenge them. Start boosting their race early on, by the way. Oh yeah, you better believe, considering how far right America is as a whole, we're totally saying retard now. If you're somebody who gets mad about saying retard and calling it a slur, just know the majority of marginalized Americans voted for Trump this election, okay? America is, the world is not so progressive that we have decided the R slur is a slur. Why do I even say the R slur? Retard. We gotta stop softening up the left. The left has to be less soft. The fact that the right gained voters by being racist towards the demographics they gained voters in, the left has to be far less soft. Slurs are back on the menu, boys! Nah, just retard. Just that one. But yeah, like, I really need you guys to recognize the fact that Trump gained a 10+% growth among Latino voters while increasing his attacks on them goes to show that America is not a country, and the voters in this country, the people that need to be convinced, are not people who will be convinced by arguments that racism is bad. You gotta be edgy, boisterous, controversial, or they're not gonna like you. And maybe a lot of it is the economy, but I think a lot of it is also Trump's mannerisms and vibe. A lot of people voted Trump because they follow the cult of personality that he is, and that is his cult of personality. There is no other way to describe America right now than retarded. But hey, with all that said, I really want to finish all of this discussion off, and there's going to be a lot more talk about all of this in the future on my stream. I'm just, obviously we're very focused on the election right now and talking about the results and, like, what ended up happening, overnight and everything, that we're more focused on that, but streams are probably going to resume normally. Unless some big crazy news happens tomorrow, I'll probably take tomorrow off because I've streamed the last 3 days. So I'll probably take tomorrow off, get some housework done, because today and yesterday have been just nothing but focused on stream, so I need to, like, do my dishes and shit. So tomorrow I'm going to take tomorrow off, and I'm going to focus on my basic house duties that I haven't been up on in the last 2 days, because good lord, work has been a lot, And the day after that, I will be resuming with my normal stream schedule. We're going to be doing a lot of content, dunking on Trump, MAGA, and everything going on. There's a lot to do. It's going to be a long 4 years. However, to all the new and, of course, the returning viewers, I should say, coming back to the stream that I recognize your faces after 4 years, I want to say, welcome back from your 4-year vacation from politics. I hope you enjoy your stay back on the channel. It's nice having you here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this segment. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like. It's like casting a blue ballot to make YouTube push my content in the algorithm. Let's make that voter turnout high, huh? Don't refuse to vote. Cast that blue like on my stream. It really helps a lot. And all my videos. Every time you push like, it forces YouTube to push my content in the algorithm out to new viewers. And on top of that, you can subscribe. You can also comment. Both of these things help the channel a ton. If you subscribe and ring the bell icon, YouTube will actually tell you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, you can follow my social medias, linked down below in the description as well, including my Discord server, where I host game events, call-in streams, or watch parties at least once a week. I really like to connect with my community there, so you really should join. I also announce all my new uploads and streams there, so if you haven't already joined the Discord, you really, really should. On top of that, if you haven't already, you should consider perhaps supporting me directly. It really does help. You don't have to, but if you can, it helps me keep the lights on, a roof above my head here in the Xanderhall studio. You can donate, subscribe, gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch, because I do have Xanderhall merch, through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless how you support me, though, even if you're just a lurker, silently hanging out in chat and you don't say anything, I love you, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you again.